Hi, welcome to my presentation on the cask of Amontillado and how to prep Mr. Fortunato's remains. So, if you've read the short story, at the very end it says that for a century nobody had disturbed the bones. So, I would say pretty easy. Here we're just gonna dig up the bones, put them in a bag, toss them in to the grave, right? Just kidding. That would be the easy way out. Also, in my opinion, I think that Poe was referencing that Montresor had maybe done this before, and there was lots of bodies from the. All right, so quick recap of the story is two guys. One guy, for some reason, is super mad at the other guy. They don't really tell you why. He just said he's done him wrong, and now it's time for revenge. He takes the rich guy who loves wine, tells him, I've got this great wine, come try it. They go down into the cellar, and he bricks Fortunato in and laughs in his face and leaves him there to rot and die. There's a couple different ways that he could have died that I've researched up online, and the FBI probably be looking into me soon because I Googled how long does it take for a person to be bricked into a wall to die, and all these other death ways. So the first one that I do not believe happened that I've seen is by fire, that he burned alive. The catacombs, the cellar where they was way too damp. It was just one torch. Even if there was, say, like hay on the ground around them, it would have been soggy and not like the perfect stuff to ignite on fire. So when that torch went in and he put that brick in, it cut off the oxygen source, and I think that it would have went out really fast. So he definitely didn't burn to death. Um, Another example somebody had put out was that maybe he died from asphyxiation. I did a little research on that and found a very interesting, not article, but on Quora. Like, you can ask questions and people answer. And this one guy put the most, um, I don't even know how to describe it, but it's the most scientific breakdown of how you long it takes for you to die before not being able to breathe. So I will include that at the end so you could check it out. It's really neat. But he came up with that in a 10 by 10 room, if a person was enclosed in it, which I'm assuming is a pretty good guess for this alcove. It's probably smaller, but it's pretty close. So he says about 73 hours or so. So about 3 days. Um, I don't think that's realistic in this case because I think he would have died from dehydration first, which also takes about 3 days. So it's possible that both things were happening at the same time and would have knocked him out, and he would have fallen asleep at one point and never woken up. But it would have been real painful up until then for those 3 days. I'm going with dehydration. So for the questions, what was the cause and manner of death for the character? I'm going with dehydration. He was murdered by Montresor by being chained to the wall and bricked into this little alcove, and he had nothing to eat or drink. Now, Fortunato was kind of a big guy, so he may have been able to hold out a little bit longer, maybe closer to 3.5 days or 4 days. He had also been drinking a lot, so he had a lot of fluids in him. But there was another article about why we need water, why we can't survive without water, and it broke down dehydration in a few stages. And I want to point them out because it will affect embalming. So, the first stage of dehydration is when 2% of your body weight is lost. So then that's when the body panics, starts clinging to all remaining moisture. It's going to shut down not shut down completely, but your kidneys are going to send less water to your bladder because it's trying to reserve everything it can. You're going to sweat less, and that is going to make your body temperature rise. When your body temperature rises, your blood's going to become thicker and sluggish. So that'll be harder later when you're trying to pump in arterial solution, because these veins are not only going to be dehydrated and real shrunken, but they're also going to have some sluggish old blood in it. Um, so, also at that time, because your body's trying to maintain its oxygen levels, your heart rate's going to increase. So, like, more of your water is going to be leaving because your body's in panic. It's trying to conserve, but it's also working harder. So, it's using more at the same time. And that's just the first stage. Uh, so, then the kidneys are going to compensate by retaining more water through reducing your urination, and all the water is going to rush out of your cells into the bloodstream, causing them to shrink in size. So when we lose 4% of our body weight as water, our blood pressure will start to drop and then fainting begins. So there's a good chance that before he got to this point, he was definitely suffering. When he got to this point, he's going to become an in and out of consciousness. He'll wake up for some bit, but then go back to sleep. And then the third stage is when 7% of the body weight is lost, and that's when the organ damage begins. So the body's having trouble maintaining its blood pressure, you're fainting, you're coming back awake. It slows the blood flow to non vital organs, which causes tons of damage and wreaks havoc on the body. So you're literally no longer filtering your blood, so cellular waste builds up as well. This article was from the BBC, where I got the information from. It will be linked at the end. Was really great. So now we already know that he's dehydrating, his organs are sluggish and being damaged because of no water, and everything's kind of wreaking havoc on the inside. There's some cellular waste in there that's not going to be able to leave because it's not getting filtered. So, what is my timeline of treatment if you're called upon to restore the remains? Um, so, it depends, right? When are we finding this body? Um, if it's super far in the future, or or like the story says, 50 years later, century, half a century, you're just getting bones. If you're doing even a couple years later, I'm assuming you're going to find a mummy, um, just like some jerky skin wrapped around some bones. So I'm going to go with, let's say it's been a couple weeks to a month or two. I'm assuming that if you're dehydrating like that, that you aren't going to have a lot of decomposition. There's no real liquids to mix together and start to break down because you're so dried out. So instead, you're basically mummifying yourself. Um, if you're found right after death, before, we're going to need to rehydrate the body in order to do any restorative work. So I'm going to take the body. I'm not going to do any pre-injection, even though we've got for sure probably some blood clots and whatnot in there, because I don't want any pre-injection fluids to further dehydrate the body. What I am going to use is co-injection fluids with the arterial fluid. So it's probably going to be super difficult to raise some of the arteries, and most likely going to have to do separate ones, not just be able to get the carotid here and be one and done. When I do get the arterial fluid in, I'm going to want stronger fluid, and the from the book, the fluid ABC for co-injection, and humectant. Because I need to plump the body back up. Normally, you would do a lot of drainage. I can't imagine, you'd have a lot of drainage in this situation, but the drainage you do have, I'm going to watch it and make sure that I'm not draining a lot. And so this whole process is going to be closely monitored throughout the embalming, because I want the body to puff up and I want it to expand body parts so that it looks normal again, but I don't want to go too much where now I've just made a balloon person. Um, And in the book, it did mention for severely emaciated bodies that some embalmers add a large amount of the humectant with the final gallon. I think this would definitely classify as severely emaciated. Um, so all that is going to have to be with stronger fluids just to make sure that this person looks more lifelike. So that's going to have to be done before any restorative art methods can be used, because I need the body to at least be in normal shape before I can work on anything. Otherwise, it wouldn't even make sense. You can't start doing tissue filler if you can't even get to the tissues because it's so tightly sunken in. I'm assuming like the lips for one are going to pull back in over his teeth because all the moisture is going to come right out of those. The ears, your lobes, all these areas that I'm mentioning after embalming, I would definitely have some tissue filler to be injected in there. The eyes, I believe, would be a lost cause. You're not going to get those back up. They're very delicate. And you're going to need to build that tissue builder, even if you have to use something in there, stack some eye caps on top of each other to help make it higher up to the level you need it to be. Um, Hopefully, during the embalming with the arterial fluid, the eyelids, which are very delicate, get enough fluid into them that you are able to use them. Otherwise, you're going to have to rebuild those out of wax and anything you can to make it look normal over the eyes that you have to create. Um, the How would the lessons of anatomy and facial proportions as presented in the class apply to this case? They're going to come in very handy, because when the person's face is so dehydrated and basically mummified that it's pulling everything in, it's distorting the features for sure. It's going to drag this part all down as the mouth curls in. Um, if you don't have the proper areas, like in this case, he's got all his body parts. He's got his solid ear. He's got everything. It's just so shriveled up. So you're going to be able to cross reference, from here to here, and then from here, and where should this start? And once you get these parts, then how long to down here, and then how big of this is going to go, and the middle of the eyes for the sides, and all that. You're going to have to do that after the embalming. Otherwise, none of it will make the shapes that you need it to. So it will be very, very beneficial to know your anatomy and which places line up where. And four, what methods and techniques would you use to achieve an open casket? As I said before, definitely the co-injections with it. I would wonder if the what's left of the blood would be a sticky tar, not sticky, but like a hardened rock that is going to, once I start rehydrating the body, if that's going to be an issue. And if at that time a conditioner can be added as well. But I want to make sure it moves through the circulatory system very well, um, just because of when you're getting dehydrated, it's coagulating that blood, it's screwing up the entire circulatory system that you need to embalm. So that's why I said that there's most likely going to be more um, opportunities to go in different places, because you're going to have areas that have been so dehydrated and sunken in that you can't get through to the arm, and you're going to have to go in and do it on your own. Even if you're massaging all the way, like, I still think you're going to have trouble with it. Um, but otherwise, it is possible to have an open casket for Mr. Fortunato. You definitely are going to request from the family that they bring in long sleeves, and high neck and everything. He is a wealthy man, so I'm assuming they're going to bring in a suit. So you're kind of covered on that. Thankfully, not a female. And then you don't have to worry about the big low cut necks and or strapless things. But otherwise, I think if you get to him in time, you can rehydrate his body and make him look like he used to look so that his family can have an open casket. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. If you want to check out that YouTube video, I'll link it. And if you want to check out the two sources about asphyxiation and dehydration, I will also link those. Definitely check out the asphyxiation one. I've never seen so much thought put into something scientifically, and it was very interesting. So thank you and have a good one.